think you have the seat for you. Yes, please. Yes. Okay. Would you take a seat, please? Everybody, please. Okay, everyone, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special edition of Top Talk program of CCTV. And today we are very honored to have a very special guest who has just been re-elected for the third time as the Prime Minister of Great Britain, who is about to finish his recent visit to China. And he also has given us the greatest honor to come to the CCTV studio to face with audience here and also a larger number of our viewers in China through television. So let's again warmly welcome His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Tony Blair. Thank you. Okay, as I said, this is a special edition of our program called Top Talk. That means that it's not usually what you see in my program, that me and a number of foreign heads of state or foreign dignitaries talking one-on-one and face-to-face. And this time, we have arranged a special program that is kind of an interactive dialogue-like face-to-face interview. That also means that I'm not the only person to ask questions to Prime Minister. Rather, there will be a larger number of audience from our CCTV studios who are mainly, let's say, Chinese students, scholars, and some of them are alumni back from the UK universities. And also, Mr. Prime Minister, we are very honored today to use the modern technology, that's satellite linkage, to link a special university, a university of Nottingham in eastern China called a city called Ningbo. And we have a panel, I guess you have already seen them now on TV. And let's say hello to them, Mr. Prime Minister. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Mr. Prime Minister, everybody, I guess they have questions to you, and some questions might be very, let's say, mild and sweet, and some questions might be a little bit challenging. And I hope Mr. Prime Minister would be glad to take the challenge.
Well, you've got me here now. I can't really refuse, can I?
Okay, let me just especially use this opportunity to introduce, especially to our audience, three very special guests today. And they are actually from this China-UK joint venture university. They are from the Nottingham, senior leadership of Nottingham University. Okay, welcome all. Okay, actually I just said that there are almost two universities called the same name, Nottingham. One is Nottingham in UK, and the other is Nottingham in China, in Ningbo. Some people may ask why there's two schools using the same name, Nottingham. Actually, we prepared a very short film to help everybody to have a better understanding. Let's just take a look of the TV.
No campus walls, no bells ringing, no Chinese language spoken. Here is an institution that aims at introducing all-round British-style education. However, this institution is not located in the UK. Instead, it's situated in the Chinese city, Ningbo. Until today, more than 700 students have studied in the University of Nottingham, Ningbo. For them, it is a precious opportunity to study in a world-famous university so close to their hometown. On the 17th of September 2004, the University of Nottingham, Ningbo, held its first semester opening ceremony. This university, as the first China Foreign Cooperative University approved by the Chinese Ministry of Education, was established by the University of Nottingham, UK and Zhejiang Wanli Education Group. With a campus of 877 acres, the university introduces all-round British-style education and uses the same textbooks as those used in the University of Nottingham, UK. the whole faculty was selected by the University of Nottingham, UK. The teaching and research at the Ningbo campus are strictly assessed by the Nottingham University Quality Assurance System. And all graduates from the campus are awarded academic qualifications by the University of Nottingham. The joint venture campus is now regarded as a beacon venture for China foreign cooperative education. The University of Nottingham consistently ranks among the best British universities and the top universities worldwide. Also, the University of Nottingham is the first European university to have a Chinese chancellor.
Yeah, actually, we understand that the education collaboration between our two countries is just one of the examples of such an important relationship between China and the UK. And talking about today, we have a wide range of questions, of course. But first of all, let's start with education. I would like to ask you to say a few more words about, the education collaborations between China and the UK.
I think the important thing is that the more that you have exchanges between students and the more that universities work together, then it has two effects. I mean, first of all, in economic terms, it becomes increasingly important. Universities are now a major part of enterprises as well. Many people are, that I meet here in China, but also back in the UK, are involved in science and technology spin-offs from university. But also it allows us to understand each other's cultures and countries better. And I think that the fact that we have so many Chinese students in the UK is a great thing for us, because it means people then go back to China with, I hope, a good view of the UK. And I would like to see more British people come over to China to study, because China is the emerging power in the world, and it's important that we understand it and don't just have business ties with it, but also understand its people, its culture, how it thinks and how it works.
Great. Actually, I would say that, for many of, let's say, centuries of years, Chinese students, including my uncle, almost 80 years ago, they chose Great Britain or UK to have their overseas study. So this University of Nottingham Ningbo is quite a very good example, and I would say this is a very good beginning. And Mr. Prime Minister, actually, as we just mentioned, that we are going to link with the campus in Ningbo and to talk with them. And actually, we asked them to, before this program, to prepare some questions. And I guess they prepared a lot of questions for you, but of course we have a very short period of time, but we will ask them to try to ask their questions.
So what you want is short answers, is that what you're saying?
Of course. Okay, so let's, actually I have here all the name list of the audience in Ningbo, and I would like to ask, let's say, I have the name, a student called He Jiabei. How about He Jiabei to ask the question to the Prime Minister?
In order to promote the cooperation between Britain and China in the education area, will the British government consider reducing the tuition of Chinese students who study in Britain? Thank you.
Is that one of the challenging questions?
I guess so.
The problem is we've got to make the system pay, and we've been through a situation in the UK where we're charging our own students. They don't have to pay as they go through university, they pay back later. But we're having to charge more in order to make sure that we can get more resources into universities. And obviously we'd like to keep our student fees as competitive as possible, but we also know that people expect very high quality teaching and research facilities and science facilities. So I'm not sure I can offer you a great deal of hope in that in the short term, because we're competing with American universities and European universities, and we need to better pay people well and get the right facilities, and that means we've got to charge people. So I'm sorry about that, but it's the way it is.
Well, we understand. Actually, Mr. Prime Minister, just my producer told me on my earphone, they said they have prepared a small gift for you, or surprise for you, because we just see the picture here. It's the bell tower in Nottingham University in Ningbo. And they go in, you see, it's going to rain. Yeah, it's raining. It's not the Chinese style. It's the British, purely British style, like the Nottingham University in UK.
Right.
Yeah, we have, you know, now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think this is a little bit surprise.
It is, yes.
And they built exactly the same bell tower as that in the Nottingham University in UK.
Fantastic.
So,
That's very good.
okay. How about next question?
Yeah,
Okay,
surely.
let's go to Ningbo. And I have here, yes, my name list here. There are a lot. Of course, we could not satisfy them all. But let's say a student from International Business and Management, Xin Yin.
Prime Minister Blair, presently, competition on employment has been rather intensive in China and even worldwide. And in a few years' time, we will become graduates of the first joint China and UK university. So what do you think are our main advantages when we are ready to stand on our own 2 feet? Thank you.
I think that the big advantage is that as the trade and cooperation between the countries increases, so will your opportunities as a result of this joint venture. And basically, the biggest thing that's happening in the world today is that everything is becoming globalized and more interdependent. And therefore, countries succeed if they're prepared to open themselves up to new ideas, new influences, new people. And these types of joint venture are a very, very important symbol of that.
Mr. Prime Minister, I just want to add a small question, follow-up. Does that mean they can have the same job opportunities in the UK? For example, if they will go to UK, find a job.
Qualifications at universities increasingly become international. And that's one of the reasons, incidentally, is why it's important to keep up the quality of education, because I'm sure for any of the Chinese students that have come and studied in the UK, you might have looked at America, you might have looked at UK, you might have looked at other countries in Europe, and I mean, it's up to all of us, as in the UK, to try and make ourselves attractive to people so that you want to come in and study. And there are many people I know who've come in and studied in the UK for a time and then stayed on and worked afterwards and contributed a lot to our country. Alternatively, people may go back, and of course, you know, that's a strong link with China for the future.
That's right. Actually, education is a strong weapon.
Yeah. Where did you learn your English?
About more than 20 years ago in China, in western part of China. But we have some very good American and British teachers at that time. That was when China was just opened up.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Prime Minister, I'll just give you an opportunity to pick one of the students there in Ningbo, and I guess they got ready, and you can just figure them out by the clothing they are wearing, perhaps. Okay.
You have to put your hand up.
All right, and everybody in Ningbo, if you have questions, please raise your hand. Ah, quite a lot, Mr. Prime Minister.
Right. Well, I have to choose some clothing I can easily identify. Otherwise, I'm going to insult somebody. The guy in the yellow.
In the yellow?
Yeah.
Okay. The gentleman in the yellow T-shirt, please.
At least I got the gender right.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, it can be embarrassing doing this.
Hello. As we know, most university students has a clear vision of the future. And what was your strongest wish during your university years? And has you realized that if it were possible to put the clock back and you have another chance to make the decision, what will you choose, Prime Minister or your original dreams? Thank you very much.
I'm going to be careful answering that question. Because I've got some very reasonable and fair representatives of the British media with me today.
Oh yeah, we see that.
Actually, I wasn't really interested in politics much for at least my first couple of years at university. I got interested in politics a bit later. I was studying law and wanted to be a lawyer. Secretly, I really wanted to be a rock and roll musician. But there was a
Like John Lennon, right?
well, there was a certain talent deficit, I'm afraid, so I wasn't able to do that. No, I think it's political life is very challenging sometimes, but it's also very rewarding, and I don't think I would have taken a different path. But actually, when I was a student, I was interested in lots of different things, and I think sometimes you get when you're very young, you know, even kids of 10 or 11 know exactly what they want to do with their lives, but actually most people, you know, they're not sure until a little bit older, and I certainly wasn't. That's a bit of a diplomatic answer for you, but it's the... What does this young man want to do?
I just want to be a better man. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Better man?
That's a very big ambition. And very difficult to fulfill. Yeah.
传奇制酿，张裕卡斯特酒庄。
鲁花花生油，只榨取第一道花生原汁，
营养多，
真好吃。
滴滴鲁花，健康全家。山东鲁花，
才子赢天下。
Well, actually, we all know that Mr. Prime Minister back in UK, he's a very successful politician, and he's a very nice guy, and well, takes care of all the business and affairs quite intensively, and sometimes even by yourself. Because I have a small secret for you again. These are the numbers we got from our sources.
Right.
What do this stand for, Mr. Prime Minister?
What's the telephone number?
Yes.
I think we got that.
Yeah. Actually, it's the fax number in your office, down in 10, Downing Street, number 10, Downing Street.
Well, you can see how familiar I am with it then.
Yeah. From your face, you can tell. Actually, what I want to tell our audience is that Mr. Prime Minister takes care of all the messages coming from, like fax numbers, fax telephones, and also sometimes even emails. My question is that what kind of messages or what kind of, let's say, requests sometimes you get from the British public?
Well, they're very varied. No, I mean, I get an enormous amount of correspondence, obviously. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but I think it's around about 800,000 to 1 million pieces of different correspondence. And obviously I can't see all of it myself, but sometimes people will write in to be angry about something, sometimes they may be pleased about something, sometimes they'll want help with something. And you have to then try and have a system in place that responds to all of that. And then we've got a switchboard as well that people phone, and then, as you say, you've got the fax and the email.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Prime Minister, actually we have, let's say, almost more than 100 audience here in our studio. And after we talk with our audience in Ningbo, maybe we can shift to them. Actually, I have all these lists, let's say, a lot. just by numbers. I have their names, let's say. Perhaps Mr. Ming-Yeh.
Thank you, Premier. My name is Ming-Yeh. I'm from China Institute of Contemporary International Relations. Maybe compared with the education questions, my question is some hot and hot, because my question is related to counterterrorism. Because after 9/11, I think our international community has to do a great effort to counter terrorism. But we can see from the London bombing and other bombings in the other cities of the world, the number of the terrorism activities is increasing. And some people even say the capabilities of the global network of international terrorism is being enhanced. So from your personal view as a political leader, do you think there may be something wrong in our international policy to counter terrorism? And what way do you think it may be better for, maybe it's for a better choice to deter and disrupt the international terrorism threat? Thank you.
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, I think that this form of terrorism is a different phenomenon. It's different from what we've experienced before. It's based on a perversion of the true faith of Islam, and it's been a long time growing. And that's the reason why I don't think we should ever have expected that we would defeat it easily or quickly, because it's been a long time and it's...
You know, for everyone, I guess it's very possible that you will have very dramatic moments in your life. We all understand that in July 7th, the British people has undergone quite a dramatic and a very, very, let's say, a sad moment. And I believe our government and also the Chinese people have shown their condolences and the sympathies. Before this program, I asked my editors to prepare 2 pictures of you, because when I was doing the reports at that time, these 2 pictures of you are very shocking to me, and it's, you know, very impressive. One is, you know, when you are holding the G8 summit, and also at that time when London was named as the host city for 2012 Olympic Games. And then the other picture, I guess we have another picture, that's when the London bombing took place. As far as I can tell, these 2 pictures were taken just less than 10 hours. Within these less than 10 hours must be a very hard time for you.
Well, I think the 2 pictures are rather expressive of what happened, which was great joy in the country when we won the Olympic bid. And actually, you'll see it's the same. I've got the Olympic tie on today.
Congratulations, anyway.
And then, as you say, there was great sense of tragedy and grief in respect to the terrorism. But I was very proud of the way my country reacted. I think the British people and people in London reacted with a lot of courage and a lot of dignity, and that's the right way to treat the terrorism, really, because if you appear to be scared by it or frightened by it, out of doing the things that you want to do, then the terrorists win. So it's important, I think, that whether at a time of great joy or a time of tragedy, the country stays together. But anyway, we were reflecting today on Beijing in 2008, which is going to be fantastic, I know. And I know you're going to set a very high standard for us. So we're going to have to be very good in 2012 to compete with it. But it's another link between our 2 countries, of course.
That's all for my privilege. And let's go on to the next question, let's say. How about Xu Lu in the audience? Oh, yes.
Prime Minister, your tie is quite impressive. I have to say that first.
Thank you.
So my name is Xu Lu. I'm working with Chinese trade unions, or China Federation of Trade Unions. So how do you justify the facts millions of tons of Chinese garment have been blocked in the British, even EU-wide ports as a result of the EU-wide quota newly imposed on Chinese textile, which was raised by your close friend, Mr. Peter Mandelson. Actually, so far as I know, there's an agreement 2 days ago made just before the EU-China summit. But I still would like to get your comments on this matter. Thank you for attention.
Thank you. Well, fortunately, we've got an agreement and have overcome the problem that we had. But I think, as I was saying, and your Prime Minister Wen was saying yesterday, really what's happening is that China's economic strength is becoming more obvious, and naturally people will worry about it, and the amount of goods, textile goods, suddenly coming in from China into Europe has caused concern. Now, personally, myself and the UK were in favour of free trade. The European policy is decided, however, by all 25 countries. And some of those countries were very worried that their people would be put out of work by Chinese textiles coming in. I think in the end, these types of concerns are very obvious. They happen with China and America as well, incidentally, with Europe and America. The main thing is to resolve the disagreements and then move on and make sure that we continue to develop the trade. And actually, on any basis, this is what will happen. And we'll have trade, China-European trade will be somewhere in the region of $200 billion this year. Now, that's not going to mean that we end all the trade disputes, because you'll still have them. And one thing I think is important, particularly actually for trade union colleagues in Europe, is that they understand that ultimately we don't protect people's jobs by keeping other goods out. We only protect people's jobs by creating a strong amount of commerce and trade, and the more trade there is, the better the prosperity for everyone. That's my view. And I think, you know, we've sorted this problem with textiles. I'm no doubt there'll be other problems along the way. But I think that the general basis of China-EU trade is clear and will be open.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. How about Li Hua?
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. I have just a very simple question. So someone claims that the UK is not a pure European country. So what's about your opinion? Thank you.
Not a pure European country.
It's a very brief question.
Are there any pure European countries? I don't know. I think that no. I think the UK is right to be part of Europe, but it's obviously got a strong sovereign identity of itself too. And you know, for a country like Britain, for the future lies in alliances with other countries, with America, with Europe, with countries like China, and that's how we do well.
Let's find some student to ask the question. Let's see. Because I can tell your names. I only have your name list here. How about Sang Jin? Okay.
And my question is, as we know, this year you're the host of the G8 group. And naturally it includes some developing countries. And my question is, if you had to choose one of these leaders for a profit-driven company, which one would be your ideal partner? And what if you had to choose one to open a law office or a university? Thank you.
It's difficult to answer it diplomatically, because I've got to deal with all these guys. I can't answer it really. I mean, I don't know who I'd choose. I think I'd have to say that any politician that answered that question would not be the right politician to choose to open the university or the law offices, because I've got to get on with all these guys. So it's like sometimes people say to me, "Who's the political leader you most admire in the world?" And that's a question that's very difficult to answer without insulting all the. You make one friend and a lot of people unhappy. So that's that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on to another question. How about Mr. I guess it's a Mr. Tao Wenzhao from the Word. Yes.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'm Tao Wenzhao from the Institute of American Studies, Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. My question is about your personal relationship with President George W. Bush. We all know that Great Britain has a traditional special relationship with the United States, and many prime ministers also had very close personal connections with the U.S. presidents. You and President George W. Bush both got re-elected, and you both use the same brand of toothpaste. Besides,
is that true, Mr. Prime Minister?
I don't. I may be a friend of his. I'm not that good a friend, but it's. Sorry.
What is your question?
Yes, my question is: besides, do you have a lot of other things in common?
Well, we've got a strong alliance between our two countries in common, and that's important for us. And you know, there are times when the alliance with America is unpopular or unfashionable, but it's served my country well, and I think it's important. Sometimes when people ask, you know, why have we got this very close relationship, it's important to understand what we went through in the 20th century together. You know, I believe it's important my country continues that strong relationship with the USA, although I also think it's important that we don't make that again an exclusive relationship. Which is why one of the things that I've been discussing here is the relationship, obviously, not just between the UK and China and Europe and China, but also American relations with China, because it's in the interest of the whole world that America and China find a good way of cooperating and working together. Increasingly, the biggest single feature of today's world is that you need effective multilateral action. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but the best way of making progress in the world is for the major countries to work together on a common agenda with common interests.
Let's just find another one, let's say. How about a student from Beijing University, I guess, Wang Jin?
My question is, as we know that it was on your birthday when you were elected as the Prime Minister of UK for the third time. So my question is it the best or the heaviest birthday gift for you?
Very good.
Thank you. Well, I was delighted to win, but I've got to tell you something. You see, you're a young person, but when you get past the age of 50, you don't like being reminded of your birthday at all. So, winning the election is more like a sort of consolation when another year passes. But no, it was a great moment. But yeah.
Another one. How about Song Hang Li?
My name is Song Hang Li. I'm from the University of Nottingham, Ningbo campus. Prime Minister, my question is, the diplomatic ties between China and the UK were re-established 30 years ago. During this time, there have inevitably been misunderstandings between us. China's recent changes and achievements has opened China to the world. Have British people changed their views on China over this period, and what do they feel today? Thank you.
I think that for Chinese people, what's important to understand is that the world has been aware of China's development for some time. But it's only recently that the full implications are beginning to be studied. And as I said to your Prime Minister when we were at lunch earlier, it's not rational for it suddenly to be the issue that everyone's talking about, because China's been developing over a long period of time. But it's just the case that suddenly people are asking the question about China in a bigger way than they have before, economically and politically. And I think that, you know, the greater the degree to which China continues to open up, the greater the confidence people have from the outside. And so people ask the question, what does this mean for us? And the more open China is, the more they understand it. The more they interact, the more that things like the exchanges that you're having between Nottingham and Ningbo, the more that people then, what they understand, they don't fear. What they don't understand, they can fear. So that's what's important. And I think that opening up economically, politically, culturally, in terms of education, that's the key for us. And the more that we do that, the fewer the misunderstandings.
Okay, so Mr. Prime Minister, we know that Prime Minister's schedule is very tight, and last question for you to choose. Anyone from the audience, if you have any questions, please.
The lady in the stripy T-shirt.
My name is Shen Yushu. I come from Peking University, and we still remember that after the 9/11 tragedy, the U.S. have made some restrictions on the students' visa. So my question is, will the government of Britain to take take the action on the students' visa and for the education system of Britain? Thank you.
No, we want to keep students coming to the UK, and I don't think we should ever allow the very small number of people that are terrorists and extremists to change the lives of, the vast majority of people who are decent people who want to live in harmony and cooperation with others. And I think, as I was saying a moment or two ago, I think the fact that Britain is an open and a dynamic country, the fact that when you come to any of our major cities, you will meet people from different ethnic backgrounds, different races and religions, and different nationalities, I think that's a strength of a modern country. And so I'm proud of that aspect of Britain, and I don't want to see that change. I want to see it continued and deepened and strengthened.
Okay. I think that's all for our questions. And for the interview today, I think it's a very good interview, and today we shared some of the intelligence and also some of the insights from Prime Minister, and also from our audience here, both in Beijing and also in Ningbo. I would like to ask everybody to thank Mr. Prime Minister again for coming to China and for coming to CCTV. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. Thank you. Good to see you. See you. Thank you, Keke. Good to see you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
站在高端，看到不同一般的层面；走进高端，听到不同凡响的声音；面对高端，探究深刻非常的思辨。同水军艺一起站在高端，走进高端。高端人物尽在高端访问。您正在收看的是中央电视台综合频道。